All right, we're ready. If Rach is making noise, I'll just mute my mic.
Cool. G'day everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of the Hidden City Rollers Derby. We're here with a smaller crew than usual, but I would say the highest quality. We have the Canadian roller, Ennsy. Say hello.
Hello.
I'm your host, Simcof, and we actually have a visitor here from Perth as well. So this is Nathan, a buddy of mine from a long time. Say hello.
There you go. Howdy.
Cool. And that's it. It's just another Power Tree episode today. So we'll see how we go. Pretty exciting weekend. We're Gencon Eve. I think as we're recording, day one of Gencon is just kicking off. So we're less than a week away from new roles. So that's pretty exciting. None of us are at Gencon. You guys been playing any L5R lately?
We had a tournament here last week, just a stronghold one, which was not bad. Had a bunch of new faces, which was pretty solid. A lot of out there kind of decks that we hadn't seen before, lots of crazy shit. But
so how's the WA L5R scene? WA is Western Australia for our international listeners. It's the
not Washington.
westmost state. How's that work?
So lots and lots of new players here. Like a lot of people that didn't play the old CCG. There's like 3 or 4 of us that did. It's all a pretty chill crew. There's a pretty heavy sledging culture, which is good times.
Again, for the international listeners, do you want to describe the subtle art of sledging?
The subtle art of sledging is trying to throw your opponent off, not to throw them off the game, but just to make them rage quit, be as angry and belligerent as possible. It's good times all around, really. It adds to the atmosphere. And I
think what I most remember about the Perth scene was Jack Daniels and Coke.
Funny you mention that. I happen to have that like right in front of me at the moment. It's part of the experience.
Jack Daniels, the official podcast companion.
That's right.
So continue.
No, so we've got as I said, a bunch of newer players who have all come from lesser games like Magic the Gathering and things like that, like Baby's first L5R, things like that. And so they all try, like there's people there that have been trying on like your Crane Honor Run decks from like the first 2 or 3 expansions, and they've not done super great, but they all try on new stuff all the time, and it's really quite bizarre because we always hear all the podcasts like the Rollers and the Imperials and the Jade Throne and everything else all talk about the meta and how bad line are, but like they've consistently always dominated in our little corner of the globe. Like line always sort of reigns supreme like every single Kote, and people roll their eyes when they play them because they're so easy. It's very, very different.
Do you think it's just because line players bitch more?
Sorry? Well, they're...
Do you think line players just, complain more than your average player?
Maybe. I mean, maybe the sledging over here just toughens them up a bit and they roll through it, But no, I don't know. I think line's fine. Like they've got some pretty neat stuff. They've got what we refer to as the kitten cannon over here, where they just dump tons and tons of people all over the table, and it's all well and good to have some awesome
the kitten cannon
counter card. The kitten cannon, that's right, or the Catling gun.
Is that like swarmy?
Yeah, they've like thousands of people on the table, and they've got more people on the table than you have cards in your hand. So like, what's the point? So, it's great. You can only court game so many lion characters, So and eventually they just run you over. Now they've got this extra stronghold, and stupid spirit caller just rolls out all the time and retrieves whoever he feels like at any one time. And now they do fine. Like they don't win like 100% of the time, but they do very, very well. Like they definitely have a higher win rate than the other clans.
How's Dragon fare over there?
They Dragon took away first place just recently, the tournament on the weekend. Or Clan Hawk Tattoo, as they are at the moment.
Clan Hawk Tattoo.
Clan Hawk Tattoo, the Hawk Clan with the Dragon Splash.
Yeah.
And there was I think maybe 50% of the decks on the weekend were running Hawk Tattoo Splash. Like it was pretty ludicrous. There was a lot of bouncing around the place. But no, they did really well. But the Dragon player was he was one of those guys who even prior to the Elemental Cycle here, he was trying to run monks back then as well. And
do you want to give a shout out to whoever that was?
Stronger. I don't know everybody's first names. He is our token dragon player. There are too many of them. Because Perth is immensely spread out, it literally takes us in the same city an hour to drive to some of the events. We've got another one this weekend. And there's like an hour between us and their tournament. So they drive like an hour south to us. We drive an hour north to them. It's still in Perth Metro. But yeah, it's a really big difference and it's very, very far. But it's really solid of them to come down, and we've all sort of put the effort in to go to each other's events and support the stores, which is really good. And I think we've got a third store coming on to start running events as well, even further south.
That's great. How far south?
Rockingham, which is just slightly
Regional.
Out of Perth Metro. Kind of. I think they're technically Metro, but yeah, they're quite far south.
What I love about Western Australia is we're always arguing about whether something's metropolis. Is it in the metropolitan area?
Well, the way I figure it, if you have to present your passport to get down there, then it's south, and it's no longer metro. That's the barrier. I mean, we all all you have to do is you get in the car, you all drive down there, you strap your vest on, and you white.
Yeah. Shout out to all the Rockingham fans out there.
All the Rockinghamians. Yeah, it's a bit of an ongoing gag locally. Rockingham's a bit of a joke, rough place, but that's fine. But no, look, it's really good. Everyone's solid here. Clinton Hay, who you guys have heard from before on the podcast, I think he's put lots and lots of effort in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of making the community grow. He's been pretty instrumental in kicking it all off because we had a really slow start. There was we had like a big influx of players when the game first got released, and then prior to the cycle starting, it really sort of dwindled off, and there was not much there. We're all sort of trying to play in our own little groups, and a bunch of people fell over, and then Clinton just decided he wasn't having that, and he just sort of got stuck into the schools and kicked it off.
Between, after Disciples of the Void, when there was this huge sort of break and just no cards, no communication from FFG, did that have a bit of an effect on the Perth community? Certainly had an effect here.
Yeah, it did. And as again, that was when a few other people said that was the nail in the coffin, I suppose, as far as some people not playing. That's when you started seeing all the selling my L5R cards, I don't have time for it kind of stuff pop up on the lists. But we're slowly getting those people back, I think. So steady, we track them down and drag them along to an event. As soon as people see there's people to play with, they love it. It's a really good game. It's really involved, and there's plenty to do, and there's a way larger spread of cards now than there was before. So everybody has a really good time once they're in there. And again, we just have a really fun crew over here. There's very, very few awkward people. Everyone's, for the most part, pretty solid. And they just get on with it, have a good time. No one's sour over stealing my third shoju promo at any tournaments. That doesn't happen. So
I'm probably the
really
culprit there. I always get very salty. I've been trying to get my third Bayushi Liar full art for a long time, and just it's not happening.
What I've got on. That's on the table this weekend for me. I've got to pull that one up.
Yeah. Hey, Ennsy, you've been grinding all over the world. I think you've played in...
I sure have.
Yeah. Have you found when you were traveling, whether it's in this version of the card game or the old version, did you find that like when you travel from city to city, the scenes were quite different, or do we just have different accents?
Oh, look, I think the scenes are different. I think you have flavors of the game. I mean, I'm from Vancouver, British Columbia, so a shout out to those guys. And when we go down to Seattle, you just have totally different stuff going on. I mean, you'd have a lot of like Shadowlands Blitz kind of stuff out of Andrew Ornatov, or you go up to Calgary and you'd have lots of monk stuff out of Greg Wong, and like weird, like different versions, like not the kind of archetype of those things. But I think there's just good creative players in each meta that then will kind of shift that meta a little bit outside of kind of where the nucleus is for the meta. Like they have their own gravitational pull. Yeah, that's my.
It's like the player base composition, like whatever your local crew is. You need the innovator. You need the guy who's grinding the tier 0 like net decked copy of Test or whatever, and and then you need like the people who are playing the crazy fun decks that they haven't really thought out. They just looked at this cool 2-card combo and went, "This will work," which it won't because they forgot about a win condition. But I feel like you really want in a player base, like a bunch of different people.
The great thing
fulfilling
though
roles.
is this game gives you win conditions. That's the whole thing about L5R. You put a deck together and then you're like, oh, what's my win condition? And then you find one. Sometimes it's mid-game.
That sort of tends to happen while you play. I think for the most part, there's 2 win conditions and the others are theoretical. I'm not sure. I think I've seen 1 or 2 casual honor wins, period, since the game began. So
I actually recorded my first ever honor win a couple of days ago, playing a Phoenix deck, which was quite fun. Phoenix with Crane Splash, and I didn't mean to at all. I was actually trying to dishonor the guy out, and I got him to like 3 honor. Then I went, hold on, I'm at 22 honor. Can I make this work? Like accidental honor win.
Did you say you recorded that? You might need to get a waiver from that fella.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
He might be on suicide watch for sure.
That's it.
But I think there is a delicate balance, right? And it'd be good to see. I know there's a bit of a polarizing opinion on this, but I do like the idea that you could figure out a way to make both honor decks and dishonor decks viable, as long as I think what you need, like as a game design perspective, is you need to really have 2 victory conditions, and you might have a primary victory condition and a secondary one. So I don't mind the idea of a honor switch to military with the lion sort of thing, or a scorpion deck that's, you know, aiming for military or aiming for conquest, but it can easily dishonor out. But I think that if you have a deck that's only way to win is honor, or only way to win is dishonor, then when you come up against the opposite deck, you just time out, and it's probably not going to be the right competitive choice. Like, you need to have a game plan. Yeah. If I'm playing an honor deck, I need to have a game plan versus dishonor.
I think that generally, if you think back to old 5 rings at least, honor decks and dishonor decks, you could have an honor rocket that could go on the attack against a dishonor deck, for example, and vice versa. So I think that, you know, when both sides have their teeth filed down, somebody still has the sharper teeth. Right?
I kind of think the trick to New 5R is kind of what they're doing at the moment, where you can do honor or dishonor, but you need to engage in conflict to make that happen. Yeah. So like honor needs just a little bit more, because dishonor obviously is far easier. But mostly I think because of the bidding is hard to control. But any kind of card, like instead of breaking a province, gain 3 honor and you leave their thing intact, something like that would probably be all an honor deck would need to knock.
That'd be pretty cool. I'd dig that. Like as an interrupt to breaking a province, instead of the province getting destroyed.
Yeah.
Like gain someone.
Your high-fluting crane guy just tottles off and goes, "Oh no, I'm too honorable to break your stuff. How glorious am I? Give me the empire."
Yeah, I dig that. And you could do the opposite way for dishonor too, right?
Well, you could, but that would be disgusting. Because
I think,
dishonor
yeah,
is
actually,
fine.
let's probably be realistic about this in the current meta. Yeah, I ain't gonna. It's too strong.
But I think, the main thing is to make sure it's always engaged. So make sure people are always playing the game with each other, not just 2 games of solitaire and see who wins first.
Yeah.
Again, in old 5R, there were people that played hideous crane decks that would just sit there and mostly play on their own for 35 minutes a turn, and you just bow and unbow and do all kinds of ludicrous stuff that was not super fun for the other person. So this game's done very well.
I was one of those people. I just did the Phoenix version.
Yeah, we have all got that crane robo honor, or that scorpion dishonor, stay at home, do nothing.
But, there's nothing that feels better than just sitting there masturbating with your cards in front of your opponent for 30 minutes and then saying, "I think I'll win now."
Yeah.
I think those decks that furiously jerk off at home whilst the opponent's sitting at the other table, like other side of the table, just playing Game Boy or Game Gear or whatever your poison is. Like it's just not fun. And I think interaction is what they've done a really good job of. And I like cards. There's that new card, was a Deceptive Offer, which is like +2/+2, or your opponent gets to choose, or give me an honor, like your choice. What do you want to do? I like that idea where
Yeah, no, me too. I think they're really
play. Is it
no?
Is it just a better version of Levy, which is kind of like
Levy is far easier to sort of pigeonhole your opponent into using, because often people will burn their fate or they'll get too low in honor, and then what they're going to do. +2/+2 for 1 honor. is much harder to pull off. It does, but
Concept of Offer is worse than Levy.
Yes,
Because that makes it a bad card.
Yes, I don't. Yes, that is an accurate assessment. I don't think that's right at all.
I just like the idea. Like, my favorite sort of Dishonored decks from the old game, and it's, you know, concepts that can be brought into the new game that we're starting to see, is where the opponent has two shitty choices. They're like, there's this shitty choice. You know, do I want to eat shit, or do I just need to smell it a lot? You know, like, what's the... You know, either way, I've got shit on my hands, you know?
But I think that's a nice way to play, like, you know, your Kakita masturbators, like, where you sit there and give your opponent the choice of how they would like to lose the game to you today. And I think that's quite honourable. Nice. It fits with the setting.
Yeah. I mean, a great one, great example out for Crane used to be cards that had things like, you know, you as a Crane player, you target an opposing personality and you say, if you want to come to battle with that guy, well, if he wants to commit to a conflict, you got to give me 2 honor. You know, so it's like, come at me, but there's a cost. So it does make players kind of have a choice, which I like.
Yeah, but they're the kind of cards that I think could make an honor deck work fine. Like, you could just make a few neutrals where, you know, they're being watched by the Empire or something like that, where they get to make the choice, but you gain the honor. Inevitably, they have to do it, but they don't really have to.
Yeah,
but they
it's like a Rokugani house arrest.
Yeah, that's it. Bayushi ankle monitor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I think the sort of cards that we don't want to see are like things that say, like, a character that has action gain 2 honor or action lose 2 honor. It's like, okay, you know, they're boring. Like, they don't create interesting interactive games.
No, that's it. I mean, that's sort of been my beef with a few things, like those cards they've released. Like, every single clan lately in the elemental cycle got their 1 or 2 cost guy that gets a +2 for a certain ring. Like, I don't really like. They're fine. Some of them are playable, but what's the point of having them? Because everyone has them, so they don't do anything. They just sort of drive home.
They have different rings. Like, it's trying to push each clan towards kind of attacking different rings. I mean, I think you have a point that it is fairly generic and it seems like boring game design. Yeah. But at the same time, at least it's kind of pushing each one to, you know, Crab's going to be attacking these rings if they want their whatever she's called to be big. Phoenix is going to be attacking these ones, right? So
yeah, once we're at the table, I don't know. I think there's clearly this early more interesting stuff you could throw down than just everybody gets their version of this little vanilla crappy dude. So but that's okay.
We're been talking about like the local metas and how it's a little bit different wherever you go, which is kind of fun, especially as, like, you know, I think previously in a different life I was a traveling consultant and I kind of had to fly from city to city for my job, so I got to play in like a lot of different metas. A lot of fun traveling around and seeing different games, but there's been a lot of effort by some of the crew in the global Discord and across the world to put together this global, like, World Cup, Olympic Games sort of thing of L5R, and I don't know about any other countries yet, but they're all kind of making progress to choosing their teams, and then in some unspecified time period, we're going to have like the top 3 players, well, from each country kind of take on the world in some sort of World Cup thing. And so it's really interesting to see what that'll happen, because like every country's meta is going to be, you know, potentially quite radically different. And Australia's just announced its team, the top 3 from the Australian Discord League, of which 2 are on the podcast. Congratulations, Ennsy.
Thanks, mate. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. And we also had Toriadori, aka Birdie, aka Double Hatabato guy. Who's
aka as if that was ever in question.
Yeah. And so we're just working out our 4th at the moment, but we did it very democratically, which was enter the tournament, top 3, get there. Which is
if you
nice.
If you ever need a trash tier Nodomoto, you know where I am. If you need some kind of mascot, I'll wear a costume.
I think we're looking for a coach at the moment. We need a mascot.
But I think we decided on the coach, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Man, I got through with Unicorn. Unicorn is so much fun. You know, maybe I'll have to honor the unicorn.
It's because they're new, right? Like,
yeah,
it's because they've just come out and
well, it's an expansion clan, right?
Yeah, that's right. The expansion clan. They're quite good, as it turns out. They just needed a few little choice cards, but now they've got the new stronghold, so I reckon they're going to swing pretty hard from quite good all of a sudden to completely ludicrous.
So we'll try and give a bit of coverage to the old World Cup when it starts happening. I'm pretty much in the dark about it, but and the other exciting.
I have no idea when it's starting.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Toradori to tell me. The other big exciting thing is the top 8 of the Australian Discord League for Season 3. They're taking on the top 8 of the French Discord League, their version. I'm not sure who qualified. Actually, I am sure who qualified from France. I just don't have the list on me. But we do have the qualifiers from Victoria, or Australia, and mostly Victoria.
It's mostly Victoria. So I'm not sure what even. I mean, everyone I hear about that does decent in L5R, or everyone's on the cast and everything else, it's all Victoria. Like, do we know? I'm not even sure if there's much of a scene in Sydney.
Promoters. That's all it is.
But that's okay. That's a good title for a card.
It's also. It's not quite true. I mean, you've got people like KP over in Canberra who wins everything he plays. He's an amazing player, and he's on the podcast earlier. It's a really strong New South Wales and Queensland players, and I think the tyranny of distance means it's a bit challenging for West Australians and to a lesser extent the South Australians to get to bigger tournaments. But there's plenty of good players everywhere.
Well, yeah. So there's a decent scene scattered around. Maybe you could do like a hidden silly roller world tour of Australia.
Absolutely.
Call in, do a cast from each state.
Oh, that's a good idea. It's like the king going to each of his domains and holding court.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll provide a link to the Lotus Pavilion tournament so you can see who's qualified, who's in that top 8 there for the Frenchies, and so we'll have a good.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll have a good coverage of that too. So it's like single elimination style. Top 8 Australia versus top 8 French to decide the world champion.
Is that on Sportsbet? Can we throw some coin down?
I'm sure you can. Sportsbet everywhere. So the other big thing that's going on at the moment is a little tournament called Gencon. Nathan and I have never been there, but I think, Ennsy, you said you've been to Gencon a couple of times, right?
Yeah, I've been twice.
You want to give us a trip report? What should people who haven't been there expect, and what are we missing out on?
All right. Well, look, I mean, my Gencon experience probably isn't what they advertise on the flyer. So my Gencon experiences, both of them they're comprised of L5R. So lots of L5R. Usually I'd show up on the Wednesday. I'd qualify on the Wednesday at the cheeky tournament. I'd usually lose my first 2 games and then win out because I'm the grinder. And then it would proceed into 5 days of straight drinking with usually Dan Deneen from Albany, New York. So shout out to him. I just saw his Facebook post, so he's over there already. I'm sure he's already on it. Yeah, mostly L5R and then Suicide L5R. I don't know if that ever made its way over to Australia. Each player opens a pack, and you just play with what's in your pack, and then you open another pack. It's a great way to get rid of old booster boxes. And lots of steak and shake. So if you've never been to the Midwest, these steak burger kind of restaurants are all the rage. Western Philadelphia has what is it? No, Pennsylvania, sorry, has Quaker Steak. That's their version. But Steak and Shake in Indianapolis is where you'll find the, kind of core, I don't know, the nobility of L5R at 2, 3 in the morning. Just talking crap, basically. It's a good time. And then I think the Hilton Hotel usually is where you people smashing games. So, yeah. If nothing's changed in the last few years since I was last there, probably 5 years ago, then there you go. There's your quick guide to Gencon from somebody who hasn't been there in a while.
I think you said, like, I never went there, but I used to hear people talk about the grinders, about, like, how to qualify for Gencon. What was that all about?
Well, that was where you'd find me. So Wednesday, like I said, you'd have your normal 7-round Swiss tournament. If you went 5-2, at least in those years, you'd make it through. And they're pretty intense. And I heard someone say that, you know, the qualifying rounds, I think it was on Jade Throne. I mean, these guys, they've played a lot of Magic. They're used to these huge tournaments. I'm just pretty much, other than some old Decipher games when I was a kid. But, you know, I found them pretty intense, even if you only have 150 players at these grinders. You know, win your games. It's very simple math, you know, 5-2 and you make it through. Wednesday was a grinder. Thursday was a grinder. And then Friday was the first day. Saturday was the second day or something like that. I could be wrong, but anyway, there was a few grinders, and you know, if you lose one, you just play in the next one. So usually that meant that I was just playing L5R constantly. I played very few board games. I was just there for L5R.
Priorities, though. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
drinking
think
all
that's
night long.
well, that's realistically what you go for to most of those things. For me, anyway, every time I've gone to any kind of con, it's all about catching up with people you may or may not have known prior and getting tanked and trying to recover in time to actually do the event you've shown up for, like play games or whatever else. It's good times.
They also have clan dinners. So that's something like, if you're at Gen Con, right, you know, as soon as you listen to this or something and you haven't heard of the clan dinners, try to seek them out. Each clan has one, and it's a really good way to, you know, meet really cool, engaged people in your clan. And a few of them are usually at the same restaurant. So, you know, once dinner's done, you can go mingle. I mean, I think Dragon, Mantis, Scorpion, Phoenix were kind of all at the same restaurant usually. So it was a good time.
One of the differences, you know, I think with this new game, because it's not a CCG and you kind of have access to all the cards, is we haven't quite yet seen that, like, clan loyalty side of thing come into an effect. It's interesting because that was probably a really cool part of the last game. I mean, we all played all the clans, but you kind of had your favorite clan. Bit different now, it feels like.
I think it will be there. It depends how hard FFG push the consequences of tournaments into the game itself. As soon as people, like they have with a couple little bits and pieces, like that Unicorn Meishodo personality and Toshi Ranbo, I think, as soon as what people do start impacting the story more heavily instead of just roles, I think people get way more behind it, because then you get invested and you really want to see what's happening next, and you get your favorite characters and you don't want them going the Game of Thrones route and getting nailed to the cross. That kind of stuff.
So and then they get nailed.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I can see a bit of a backroom consortium happening to try and see if we can force Daigotsu to appear at some point. Watch how many people very, very quickly abandon their pet clan as soon as that becomes an option.
Yeah. There was some hints apparently that next year they're going to do like a big story, because obviously this year it's been kind of minor and quiet. You know, there's bits and pieces happening here which are cool, but hopefully, like, you know, there'll be a big bad, or there'll be like a major conflict, you know.
That'd be awesome. I think even if it's small.
Yeah. And the role-playing books are starting to come out now as well, which will flesh out a bit of the sort of the background and the backstory, and I think they'll probably feed off that. The old game, they used to feed off each other.
Yeah. That'd be really good. I said I'm dead keen. I hope they maintain that sort of player impact on the story long term. Like there's I think it's a D&D podcast by Matt Colville who talks about, like, right at the beginning of L5R, how amazing that game was, how everyone was super invested, and they'd all rock up and talk to the developers about how the story was going to happen when they won their tournaments, and that kind of hype you don't really get without some pretty big investment. That'd be fantastic to see again.
Yeah. So here's a weird one for you, Nathan. So a lot of the over here and on the Discord channels and all over the world, I guess, we'll all be talking about, what our hopes and dreams are for the new roles. And look, there's some super complex voting system that's going on place with how the new roles get chosen, which we won't bother covering. We kind of covered in the last episode. But anything in Perth, is there any hopes and dreams the players have of what the clans will hopefully get as their next roles? Like, what's your favourite clan and what are you hoping for?
Look, I'm a pretty dedicated Scorpion guy at the moment. I really just want any keeper, personally. Any kind of keeper. I don't even care which one. Just one of them would be fine. I want to run my backhanded compliments and I want my keeper initiates because they're ridiculous. And but there's a lot of people, I think they just want a bit of variety. I think if everyone get a seeker and a keeper, that's what most people want. They may have individual little desires for, like, seeker or water. Well, no one wants seeker or water, but individual bits and pieces that people are going to want. But, like, fire is obviously very, very popular. Void is very, very popular. But every time new cards come out, like, now you've got air is suddenly on the cards because of the mark of shame and above question, and then you've got like sabotage suddenly make earth. No one had really cared about it before, but suddenly that's quite a prominent choice. Like, getting Keeper of Earth and Scorpion would be amazing. There's that 0.5% chance that Scorpion can actually use their deterring pursuit card or whatever it's called if we happen to get an Earth roll and we run Shinobi, so you never know. I love how next cycle I'm expecting a card that says only courtiers, only if you're missing your left foot, only if your head is shaved, and only if you're below 3 honor may you play this card if you are both void and arrow. And then you can gain an honor or something.
Cut off their left foot mid-game just to play the card.
they would. Well, maybe, some of those fans are pretty diehard. I think it's getting a bit too specific for my liking.
Back in Gold Edition, a few people actually played Make-A-Wish, and you had to tear that up.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
That was a charity card, right? It was like $5 or something, and you could, cancel anything. You just had to cancel it. You just had to, physically tear the card.
Horrible for tournament deck legality, but otherwise awesome.
Yeah.
Still doesn't work on Hawk Tattoo, though.
No. So that Hawk Tattoo's been making a big impact in Perth?
I think, as I said, I think just about everybody, well, not everybody, but there was a very, very big show over last weekend, and I expect the same this weekend. It's just really good. It just moves your people, it moves their people. There's not really a cancel for it. If you really need a tiny force bump, it's there too. It's just, I don't quite understand how it was pushed out that way, but it's fine. I think it feels like a sort of card where the must be attached to your own people text was just accidentally left off.
Yeah. I do like the image of somebody being forcibly tattooed. Just strapped down into the couch, just
and you snap your fingers later on, wings sprout out of there, dragged into your house.
Violent tattoo artists, those monks are.
That's right.
It's interesting, that card and I guess Mark of Shame are both unique in the sense that you can't cancel what they're trying to do because they react as attachments and there's not really that tech yet. You don't get a chance to let go, doesn't do shit, and there's no cancel the ability of an attachment yet.
Yeah, well, I think in particular though, Mark of Shame. Sorry, go ahead, Ennsy.
What was that card? There was a card in the old game that just said cancel a reaction, and
fall on your
it
knees.
Was a certain meta. Fall on your knees. Thanks.
Yeah, look at that memory.
Yeah, and remember the meta where you just had to play 3 fall on your knees in your deck
at all times.
So good. Yeah, exactly.
Rare 5R. Yeah. Cool. Right. So I don't think there's any updates from Gencon yet. It's just Gencon Eve at the moment, or they're just kicking off. So hopefully, and I don't know if there's any streaming. I assume there's going to be streaming, but if there is any streaming, I think these big events, it's really exciting to follow along. And so it's pack 4 of the Elemental Cycle is legal for it. So it's going to be a really exciting tournament. Huge amount of players. I think there's quite a few hundred, it seems. So it'll be big tournament, new cards. So I think we're going to see a lot of different deck types. I'm a little disappointed we didn't get 5 and 6 for Gencon. Because it's a big tournament.
Yeah. It seems, I don't know, like it's a pretty big deal tournament, right? We get the second rules after this one. I would have thought that they'd sort of aim to have their full arc released by that point, because there's some pretty significant cards there as well.
I'd love to see Kalu Delegate. I think Togashi Mitsu was Pack 5, right? So
is he?
Yeah.
I think you'll find that
you want to see a very different meta for Gencon versus Worlds. So those two packs are going to make a massive difference.
Yeah.
I mean, we will see Hawk Tattoo out in full force at Gencon, but we won't see, a whole bunch of other really interesting things like Mitsu, for example. So we won't see monks in all their glory, all their shirtless glory.
Shirtless recurring Shrine Maiden glory.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nah, that'll be fine. I'd like to see, I'm hoping someone runs out the old Hawk Tattoo adopted kin, where you can recur your Hawk Tattoos and just start running 6 Hawk Tattoos a game. Seems like good times.
You could do
I've got a Dragon Phoenix.
Yeah, and Clouds.
A Dragon Deck Splashing Phoenix that does that at the moment. It's pretty good. Consumed by 5 fires. With the Void spell, where you get the fate back that I apparently can't remember the name of.
Embrace the Void.
Embrace Hawk Tattoo, Cloud the Mind with adopted kin.
Everyone should run it.
Yeah, for sure.
It sounds like it's missing Maze, though, if you could somehow squeeze in an extra Scorpion Splash.
Oh, that's a really good question.
Just extra splash. There's a role for you, eh? You get two Clan Splash. 2 Clan
Splash. There'd be some pretty absurd jank could come out of that. That'd be terrifying.
Look, you don't need any roll. I've been doing that at tournaments. Been getting DQ. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, no, I heard you're upholding the age-old Simcof tradition of just cheating.
Just flat out
cheating. all the time, just all the time. What I enjoy the most is how convincing you are when you defend yourself. Nervous laughter.
In order to make the Australian World Cup team, you have to have at least one memorable, so-and-so tried to do this mad cheating situation. So
you must cheat at least once.
At least once.
Yeah. That'd be my card.
It's just like being on an AFL team and having a DUI. Same sort of requirement.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
What I love is AFL team means nothing to anyone outside of Australia.
It's our football, Australian rules.
That accent was actually really good.
It's a football game for people that don't mind getting hit. Yeah. This is basically what it is.
Effectively hot potato for people internationally.
I'm not sure you've ever watched the game.
My old American boss in Melbourne, she described it as hot potato. And I was like, yeah, actually legit. Because you've got the 3 seconds or a bounce kind of rule. So, there's a lot of transition of the ball. It's kind of like hot potato.
Yeah, I suppose. If you didn't get rid of the potato in time, 120 kilo head. So.
Okay, defending our football code aside, you were mentioning Maze, right? So Maze has been a hugely polarizing card, which everybody seemed to play for a few weeks, and then people got bored of it because it wasn't reliable or consistent.
Well, there's nothing more polarizing than that coin flip.
Yeah.
So how's it gone over in Perth?
I kind of maybe deliberately ran it over the weekend. I took my Forged Edicts out so I could run 3 Maze and 3 Miramoto's Fury in a game. Just to be an arse. And every time I played Maze, whether or not people won, they just sweat and get upset and stress out. And I could see the agony in their eyes whenever we did it. It's mostly mission accomplished. It didn't really pan out for me. I think my hit rate was 20% or something. It didn't go so well, but it was good times. It's a card you play for fun, and it's sort of like a leech life. You take the fun from your opponent, and you take it, and you feed on their fun. They have a worse time, and then the game proceeds.
It's a bad time card. I think poor
That's
Ennsy,
right.
Ennsy in a recent Discord tournament got the wrong end of RNG on the old mazes, didn't you, buddy?
Well, I don't know if it was just the maze. You know, I failed the maze, or the maze failed me, or the fact that I was playing against Toridori, and just, you know, the gods smiled more favorably upon him than me. So
I think he was also
all the
running
above.
mazes, and he was succeeding.
He was also running 3 mazes, and I think 4 mazes hit play, and all 4 were to him. So
that's gross. That's so depressing though. Like, it's the worst.
Yeah, well,
I think there was. I think the one time it went off, I think a hawk tattooed someone in and mazed them, and it worked. So that was a pretty destructive little play, and I almost saw a tear. That would have made my day, but not quite. I think Maze and Tainted Koku, I think, should switch their card text. I think it's more accurate. Tainted Koku is the coin flip, and the Maze is bounces to new people. That's what it should have.
It should be a salty Koku.
Salty Koku.
Yeah, and it should have like Yasuki Taka trying to bite it, and he's like, ugh.
I approve.
I want to see that artwork now.
I'll draft that email
Actually,
to FFG, get that happening.
Simcof, it's just Marwin's Facebook photo.
Massive shout out to Marwin.
Oh, I love it.
Marwin is one of the Melbourne's favourites. Our own favourite Crane Phoenix lately player, and he's one of those guys. He's a really, really good player, right? But he's one of those guys that when something goes wrong, it's just you can see the salt. Like, it's so thick. It's like the arteries are hardening. It's amazing.
Every playgroup needs one of those guys though. Like they put the whole game in perspective. Like, unfortunately, our one of those wasn't at the tournament.
Okay.
My maze deck would have been great fun over there. Would have been super good times.
Still recovering.
I think
the thing is that
there are 2 aims.
Be an auto win, and and then I'll go through like the Australian Discord League, and I'll have all these games where like things are just working out for me, and you can just he's watching because he's there, and he's just like how is this happening? He's like, I beat you every time, and then you go and you just manage to make it all the way to the top. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's good. That's the fun of L5R, all right? Salt is important.
Yeah.
Cool.
There it is. You got to be salty at FFG when they release cards. You got to be salty at players when they play those cards, and then when you don't get the cards, you need to throw more salt.
I think the main thing about when new cards come out and we see the previews, I think it's our right as L5R players and purchasers of these cards to have strong opinions that are very loosely held. Right? When we see the card, we need to overreact, DEFCON 10, just get mad at the card, call it trash, call it broken, and then, a few weeks after it's started to be played, we go, oh yeah, okay.
Well, in fairness, FFG have been doing this for a couple of years. I've been playing this game for about 15, so they need to pony up.
They need to listen
15
to
years
Nathan.
since the old 5R. Well, I think there should be a council of some kind. All the old Imperial Assembly members. Doesn't matter how bad you are at the game.
Yeah, if you've got a copy of the Eye or whatever that was.
Tenure. It's veteran status.
And I was still an Imperial Assembly member like for a year and a half after the cards are still getting sent to my house. My mom. Promos just showed up in the mail.
I've still got all my old cards, and it really upsets me every time I look at them and think about how much money is sitting in those boxes.
I gave mine all to Clinton Hay, so hopefully he can be angry on my behalf.
I think we smoked most of those. Just burned them up.
You can smoke L5R cards?
It tastes like rice.
What kind of WA magic is this?
It's mostly lies. You have to come over and get beaten by Maze, and then you can learn all about it.
Okay.
It'll be good.
I can do that. I can do that sitting right here.
We have a couple of listener questions that we could touch on.
Oh yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay, so this one's from Piglet. You once mentioned a lot of Lion players are not maximised in the use of their best cards. What are some of the best Lion cards that Lion players should be maxing out on and playing as many as possible? Yeah, so that was from Piglet. I think he was directing that comment more at Toridori, who is a Lion Hatamoto and probably a better Lion player than the rest of us. But we're all enthusiasts here, and we can have strong opinions that are loosely held.
Yeah, well, I'm a Lion enthusiast. I'm an enthusiast for Ikoma Ikehata. And,
tell us about Ikehata.
I think, well, look, he thinks of himself as the main event, and
he's the greatest guy, right? His best quote.
He's got the best flavor text in the game. He's got covert. I mean, you can all read the card. You can't be assassinated. I think players are just looking past him because he needs to be used in a political conflict. He's for that political component of an attack. And I think even with the new line Stronghold, that he still makes sense. And I think a lot of people can disagree with my opinion. So I think I need to play more Lion, and I need to prove this to people.
I got wrecked
I think
Ikehata.
I think it speaks to Ennsy's love of Lion that he thinks someone would waste an assassination on that card, even if it wasn't for me.
If he was 2 costs,
I'm not going down to 3 honor for that.
Wait.
No.
Yeah, look, if somebody gets up on the bench with a glass of sake and they're showing you up, you definitely waste an assassination on him. So it's doable.
He's got one of those cool guitars. It's good. He's just having a good time.
Oh, he's that guy with the acoustic guitar at like the beach party. Nobody likes that guy.
Playing John Mayer covers.
Exactly.
It's not okay. It's just
you just ruined Ikoma Ikehata for me.
Ikoma Mayer.
Ikoma Mayer.
No. But this guy, like, to be real, like, I played against him the other day on Jigiku. There's a guy running him and 3 of the tacticians, and I was playing Scorpion, and I actually no, it wasn't Scorpion. I was playing a Phoenix Dishonor deck, and Ikehata, the fact that he honors himself, and you get to draw a card is pretty cool. Like, it can be tricky. Like, if you can, I mean, I get, like, the argument that Toridori has is how to Lion win a political conflict against Scorpion or Crane or really anyone, right? Like, how to actually win the conflict. And I get that, right? 1 covert's probably not enough. But if it works, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not always 1 covert. Like, there's plenty of cards out there you can splash will give you extras, and then you just rush the board. Like, I've seen plenty of the little skirmishes from Crab in there as well. 2 covert a turn can almost shut down most of your defense, unless you're playing Unicorn when every other card has movement. And, it makes a pretty big difference. And there's just so much force. Like, it only takes 1 little tiny 0/0 recruit of Lion to crush a province.
Yeah.
It really depends on turn order as well. And, like, if you're playing the new line box and you've got those 2 military attacks, I mean, if you're playing it properly, you have 2 military attacks. And then you've still got this political conflict. Like, depending on the way that you play your conflicts, Ikehata can be really powerful. You just have to think about it. How do you play the characters coming out of your dynasty phase? Sometimes matchup dependent, Ikehata is going to be horrible, and you just throw him in the bin. You're just like, you know what? He's not going to make any difference this turn. I'm going to pass. I'm going to take my fate. I'm going to sit on Ikehata. But some turns you're like, you know what? I'm going to grab a guy with covert, and it's going to make all the difference. You may even say, I don't even care about his reaction. I just need that covert on military. And that could be game winning if against the box, right? Like, it's extra covert. And Lion don't have heaps of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's similar to what's the pack 6 one for Scorpion, the little Zokajin guy. I think they obviously put it in deliberately to just make it a different angle for the clan. Like, Lion don't do great in the political arena, and something like that is the start. I'm sure there'll be a few others. You could probably vaguely fashion together some kind of semi-courtier heavy deck for Lion now. With what have they got? 4 courtiers?
Yeah, exactly. Well, when you've got Lion players, and I took a slight jab at the very beginning of the podcast, no hard feelings. But you've got some of them saying Matsu 7th Legion is the greatest thing since sliced bread. But then they're hating on Ikehata, and you're just like, hold on a second. Card for card, like, I'll take this bloke any day of the week. So, but also, let's Ikehata aside, something I was thinking, and something that Toridori also mentioned before the cast when we were just having a bit of a chat on Messenger and Discord, is the Death Seeker. And the Death Seeker is probably one of the most underplayed line cards. And it comes back to those same things that I said about Ikehata, is when you buy them, how you attack, how you assign. I mean, old L5R was a game about assignment. It was about the maneuver segment. And this game still has a lot of that, but it's a little bit more subtle. It's not at all as obvious. But, if you assign Death Seekers properly, and especially now that Lion can play Hawk Tattoo, it's just ridiculous. Death Seeker plus Hawk Tattoo equals profit.
Yeah. No, they do
Death
good.
Seeker plus Hawk Tattoo. I hadn't thought of that. That's really strong. I love it.
That'll do well. I mean, our local Andrew Eaton, who's another old friend of ours that plays a lot, he's won quite a few of the tournaments locally with Lion. He just does, it's all basic stuff. 3/4 of his box seems to be base box stuff, but he's got ready for battles that I struggle to play a lot of time, because back in the day there wasn't that much bow, but now it's everywhere. There's so many cards that people play that will just bow you guys all the time, and he gets plenty of use out of those. He just runs all the standard gear. He just loads up his guys. He's got 6 on the table where you've got 2 at the beginning of the game, and then they've all got 1,000 force from somewhere, and that's it. Or military, rather.
Critical mass is not a bad strategy.
No, I mean, just there's a point where it's a bit overwhelming and there's too much on the table. So, and that's fine. That's how he wins. Does well. Also, you got Test of Courage, and there's all these new ones. Mine will get some love soon. They'll be fine. They just need 1 or 2 really good cards to round them out, and they'll start crushing all over.
Well, I think at the moment there's enough commanders to start making a deck around it. I put a new line box deck together, I don't know, about 3 weeks ago. Haven't played it, but it looked really solid on paper. And it was up to and including at least the Gencon legal pack, so at least Hawk Tattoo, because my splash was Hawk Tattoos and Let Go. And yeah, I gotta get some games into that. Maybe later tonight. So.
DK.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's hard for me with Line because I don't see the meta much outside of Perth, our little circle. We got between probably 20 and 30 players regularly at the moment.
Shit, that's pretty good.
If you count it up. Well, that's all up, across the giant area of Perth. The people that actively play the game that I'm aware of. But I'm not sure how much use cards like Kamagari get, where you bow the people that use their abilities. That's burned me pretty hard a few times. Master of the Spear, the little drop bear that pops in after you lose a military conflict, they can be unpleasant. There's plenty there. You just got to look at what they do and use them.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the meta over here is a bit poor or a bit too different to everywhere else, but it works.
So the answer to that question, Piglet, there's a lot of cards. We seem to think that Death Seeker is a card worth looking at. That's the one. Especially with Hawk Tattoo. We do have another. There wasn't a lot of questions. I don't know what's happening. Our viewership seems to be, listenership seems to be okay, but no one's asking us questions. We do get an important burning question, which is hold on, let me just have a look. It's who is the big swinging dick of L5R? And that is from BW Holland. Cheers, BW. I have an answer to this, but I might let you guys answer first. I think my answer is the correct answer.
Who has the measuring tape?
Who is the big swinging dick? Who's numero uno? Who is walks into the room, everyone's shit, that guy.
Are we talking about the L5R universe or?
Oh, I guess let's answer that two ways. Player versus in game.
All right. Well, do you want to go, Ennsy, or?
No, you go. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
So the biggest swinging dick in L5R in world is absolutely Baishi Kachiko. She runs all things at all times, and she's got Baishi Shoju as a minion, so clearly she's doing fine. And then she's got Aramoro, and she's got Taru is her minion. Everyone works for Kachiko. She does what she wants, and she always and that's it. Everyone does. Everyone either works for Kachiko or works for someone that works for Kachiko. That's how the empire is structured. And you never see her coming. She's hidden in your hand. She drops onto the table. Everyone cries. She's got amazing ability and amazing stats, and she's great.
I think the yin to her yang is Kasada, because I know there's all these angry crab players saying, she's pony woman, what about Hida Kasada? Like, you know, Hida Kasada is this giant dude. You see him coming from a million miles away.
Crab players.
They're all angry.
I think there's a joke in there about Kachiko and angry crabs. I'm not sure what it is.
We'll leave that one. But no, I feel like Kasada is like, you can see him coming from 1,000 miles away. You read his text box and you're like, jeez, how am I going to deal with this shit? But like, he's not hidden. He's the opposite. He's like, I've got big muscles and I'm going to punch you in the face. It's going to take... He's like one of those horror villains. Like, have you ever seen any of those, like, Friday
Jason Voorhees?
Yeah, like, you know, Voorhees, he never runs. You never see him running. The girls or like the campers that he's trying to kill, they're always like sprinting, running in the bushes. He's just slowly walking, tilting his head to one angle, and he's got his cleaver, and somehow he catches up and he kills you. Right? That's Kasada, right?
Just goes forever. Yeah. As far as out of game, if I was to answer a question seriously, I don't recall his name. There's a player, I think, from Spain who apparently just trots around Europe all the time, winning every day. Is like his profession. I don't recall his name, but he did very, very well early on.
I think he might. I don't think he's Spanish, but Jacob Erds, you might be referring to, who's won 3 Kotes, including like 2. I think it's 2 Grand Kotes. Scorpion player.
Yeah, no, definitely a Scorpion player. Naturally,
Jacob Erds, his name is, and he's amazing.
For some reason.
Like
so there's the player I hear about on all the podcasts now and then was brought up, and he's got like a reputation. Other people do quite well, but he seemed to stand out.
Yeah, for sure.
Other than that, I don't know, because I live in a tiny little
I do
pocket
like
manor.
the way that he's not a braggart or anything, or at least virtually. I've never met him in person, but in terms of virtual interactions, he just kind of is like, you know, he's a pretty polite guy, and you know, does his thing and just goes out and crushes people. Never really brags.
It's always
about
the quiet ones you got to watch out for.
Yeah. Ennsy, you got any thoughts in game or out of game?
Oh, look, I mean, I wouldn't trust the Yasuki broker too much. I think he or she, you know, it's one of those. Even that's confusing for me. So definitely keep an eye out. Can't trust them. So, and I think you're going to see entire decks based around the broker. You can't trust the broker.
Are we talking about like the daimyo, or the new one?
The one in Elements Unbound, the 2/3 for 4 that gives everybody courtesy and sincerity. That's like free cards and free cash. And as for players, I think, look, I got to give it to Demagogue.
Yeah.
The man after my own heart, total jank. But you know, just does it so successfully with such flair, like an icon, a human icon.
A human icon.
I love it.
It's a big goal.
All right, I've been crushed many times by Demagogue, but sorry, you had some last thoughts there, Nathan?
No, I want to hear who you think the big swinging dick is.
Oh, I agree. I was going to say Jacob as far as that, but you beat me. You kind of beat me to the punch. I think we think alike. Kichiko was definitely going to be my pick for sure. And I was thinking about who's the gimp, who's like the character in the game where you're like, really? You just go, this guy is the putz. Like, who's the ultimate putz? And this dude, I used to love him in the old game, but I feel like putz of Rokugan is Yajiro. Bayushi Yajiro. Just no respect. I just feel like everything about him is wrong. Like,
is that that's the Honest Scorpion?
Yeah.
Is that him? Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't have a whole lot of love for Taturi this time around.
Oh,
like he was a bit of he was a bit of a boss in L5R. He, ended up the emperor and everything. And in this one, he's just he feels like a little boy, like a little kid. He just doesn't know what to do, and he's just sort of dotting out. I mean, you get the lore and stuff that come out in the packs, and he just he's always like, oh no, what am I going to do? He's like got zero self-confidence, or it sounds like. Anyway, he just feels like a complete schmuck, and he should basically just fall in a hole and die. Yeah. So maybe he's the worst. I don't rate him.
Those lion players. How about
I
yourself?
really hope that the Imperial Librarian gets an experienced version.
Oh yeah.
Like when he's saying only the most esteemed of samurai may use this library, he means it.
He's the greatest Imperial Librarian for
He's like,
Prez.
get out of here, Chichuri.
So I think you'll find it's only the most esteemed samurai that also are fire rolls are allowed to use the library. Nobody else.
It's a very exclusive fire-based library.
That's right.
I tried to build a deck the other day that had the Imperial Librarian and Mark of Shame, and then I realized that they were both roll locked, and I was a very sad boy.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Hey, the Imperial Librarian is a scholar, so it can totally work with Bustling Academy now.
You can bustle. That's right.
Well,
Only the most esteemed of samurai can bustle to my level.
He's a courtier as well, right? I think. From memory. Yeah, no, you'll be fine. Yeah. You can run him solid in Phoenix. I've got a ridiculous Phoenix courtier deck at the moment. I could chuck him in there if they ever get a fire roll.
Beauty. All right.
I think it's on the cards for Phoenix.
Thank you for your time, Nathan. Cheers for joining us. I'm sure hopefully you'll be back again soon. And
cheers, man. It was really good.
Cool. And Ennsy again. Hidden City Rollers.
Always a pleasure.
No worries, mate. Well, until next week, thanks. We've been the Hidden City Rollers, and you've been players of the children's card game, Legend of the Five Rings. See ya.